Boo!
Hi.
Welcome everyone to Volume 2, Issue 1 of the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. We are reading Colder from Dark Horse from 2012. This is a 5-issue miniseries that ran from, 2012. It's the first part in an omnibus. If you have the omnibus, you just read the first 5 issues and you can keep up with this show. So, as always, joined by these two. They've already been introduced, but we'll say hello again just to be polite, won't we? Who are you?
I'm Scott, I am. How you doing? Thanks for joining, everyone.
Who are you?
My name is Philip. Hiya.
And I'm Shane, of course. So before we jump into the book, let's just jump and see who has joined us in the chat. We've got Comics versus the World. Says, I'm here early to say I won't be here, but have a great show. Every week he pops in to say hello, which is really nice of him.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's listening on the replay. So hey, and thank you. We've also got Liam. He says, Heidi ho, due to various medications, thanks to an infected tooth. Oh man, hopefully you're not in pain. Didn't manage to finish this book, kept falling asleep when he tried. Beth has read it though, however, she's now fallen asleep. I hope that's not the book that's causing you to fall asleep. We have Blue Sonic, says, hi everyone. Hello. TB Collects is back again. Welcome back. Hello, Tyler. It's so nice to see you. We have Amy's here. Hello, Amy. Hey, guys and dolls. And we have, Connie's here as well. Hi, Connie. Thank you for popping up. And Glenn. And Glenn says hi to all of us. We all get a name check from Glenn, which is nice. Everyone else just says hi, guys. Glenn takes the time to say hello to each of us individually. So thank you for that.
Don't date on anyone. You guys do what you want. That's fine.
We also have, where did it go? It's jumped on me. We have James from This Week in Metropolis. Hi, James. Thanks for joining. And there was one more I saw somewhere there. I did. Jason Parker Comics. Hey, guys.
Hey,
thanks for joining. So we reading Colder, like I say. This was my pick. Since it's horror month, I thought I'd go for what I thought was the creepiest book I could find. So I chose Colder. So I'm going to give a quick synopsis before we jump into thoughts. So the synopsis, I did write it down, so my eyes are going to be down here. Okay, I've put Colder follows Declan, a young man who in 1941 was a resident of an asylum for the criminally insane, and he meets Nimble Jack, a being from the other place, who curses Declan to get colder and colder until he hits 0 degrees, at which time he will die. This book takes place 70 years later. Declan is still alive, but getting colder. He once again has to face off against Jack, but not only to save himself, this time to save the woman he loves. So that's the synopsis that I've put down for this book. You lot might have a different synopsis in mind. If you do, sorry. But yeah, what did you... before we do, we have one more person in the chat I want to say hello to. It's the Comic Book Report. Thank you for joining. So he's never read this book, but the cover art is terrifying. Yeah. If you don't read it, at least go and check out all the covers, because the covers are absolutely terrifyingly stunning. So yeah, first thoughts. Phil, go on. What did you think?
Well, you mentioned the cover, so let's talk about that cover that you see on your screen. The fact that the fingers are going through his mouth into his eye, like, it's so grotesque and creepy. And that's the first thing you come to. And that's like, that laid the groundwork for this book. It was exactly
I should have
that.
clicked trigger warning. My apologies. The trigger warning will last for the entirety of the show, as this book does hit on a lot of themes that some people may find uncomfortable. So maybe check out the synopsis for the book before you listen if you are easily triggered or easily offended by some of these things. It doesn't do it over the top, but there are a lot of things in this book that some people may find uncomfortable to read. So there's a trigger warning out the way. Sorry, Phil. Continue.
Yeah, we definitely need that trigger warning, because it does touch on some real dark stuff throughout this book. But like I say, that cover, when you look at that cover, that kind of just tells you what you're in for. It's that level of creepiness throughout the entire book.
Absolutely.
Brilliantly. It's yeah. I mean, it is creepy. It's not overly scary. Like, I was never terrified of reading the book, but page after page or something happens, like, it's a bit, I don't know about that. Do you know what I mean? It's just that kind of feel you get by reading this. But listen, I enjoyed it. Art was stunning. A lot of the pages were absolutely stunning, and listen, had a good time. Terrifyingly creepy time throughout.
Awesome. They should put that on the cover.
Make sure to
Scott,
put my
what
name
did
on
you
it though.
think? Oh yeah, obviously it has to have, if it doesn't have Phil's name on it, it's not worth buying, is it? Scott, what did you think?
Yeah, like, so I sat down to read issue 1, and when I read my books for the Nerd Herd, it's usually like, you know, 1 or 2 issues at a time, and I'll put it down, do whatever, and then come back to it. But because of how creepy and, you know, slightly triggery the things that happen in issue 1 and 2, I decided to just go through the whole thing in one sitting because, you know, I'm not great with scary stuff, and you know, you can't be scared of what you see in a book because you can't have a jump scare. But you know what I mean? It's like I just wanted to get through it so I could stop feeling this tense, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like I'm not saying like I didn't not enjoy the book. I thought it was a very cool book. The art by Phil was fantastic, and some of the designs of the characters and creatures that you see in this book was definitely my favorite part. But yeah, but it you know, the start of it became, you know, it was creepy and, you know, like dark. But then the further you got through the 5 issues, the less creepy it got and became about the story about Declan, and what's the woman's name again?
Reese.
I can't remember.
Reese.
Yes, yeah, Reese as well. So yeah, it became more about that than just avoiding Nimblejack instead of just the quick, sudden creepiness.
And I just say that because we were talking to somebody the other day, and they had said that they had started to read this book, and after the first few pages, they put it down and didn't finish it because they were creepy. But obviously, for the Nerd Herd, we have to finish the book. So once you get past that kind of level of eerie, kind of unsettling feeling after the first 2 issues, you're right. It kind of falls in its own thing. It's not as creepy towards the end.
Yeah,
Still,
you kind of get used to it. But also, it's still there in the background because the things are still happening. But I think you're becoming more comfortable with the world that is being created in front of you.
Yeah,
It's like,
I mean,
it just slowly starts to irk you a little bit less as you see these terrifying things, and as the more you see Nimblejack, the less, you know, the less creepy he becomes, and the more sort of annoying. And
it sets the tone, doesn't it, in the first and second issue. So, you know, they don't have to show all this stuff going on in the background over and over and over again. You know it's happening. So whilst you're reading it, it's in the back of your mind. This is the kind of world that we're in, and it's not great. But
we've got James from this week in Metropolis says the cover is terrifyingly awesome, and I think that's exactly how you explain that cover. It is terrifyingly awesome. We've got Greyman in as well. Hey, Greyman, thank you. He says he's got this one, and he also says he's reread it recently. So awesome. So we're going to get his score tonight. We don't usually get a Greyman score, do we? Hopefully he can score us. Tottenham Gaming says so. It's basically thinner. The beginning bit, kind of the way he whispers to him, like you're going to get colder. Just check up on some of these comments. It says where were we? I wanted to see. Someone agreed with you, Scott. He said he read it in one go. It's Blue Sonic says, yeah, done it in one sitting. And you can. It's a really easy, like a quick, breezy read. There's not like Secret Wars level of text in the book. You know, you can get through a page in under 10 minutes, unlike Secret Wars. But yes, Coddy says it was eerie or unsettling more than scary. It sets your teeth on edge, especially the scenes on the other place, I think. Yeah, but it was very readable, I thought. I read it all in one sitting as well. Connie read it in one sitting. So yeah, I think you get a better feel for the book if you read it in one sitting. I don't think.
Why did everyone read it in one sitting? Was it because like, oh, this is weird and creepy, and I don't want to sit through this for another night? I'll get it all done now. Or was
too scary to come back to?
Yeah, like, I'm enjoying this, and I want to see what happens, and I want to read it quickly because it's cool and I'm enjoying the concept.
Yeah, I think for me it was that, because I hadn't read this one. I've read the second one, Toss the Bones. I read that one. That's the only one I had, so I read that. and I wanted to read this, so that's why I picked it for the herd. And I wanted to read on, so I finished the first issue, straight into the next one. I couldn't put it down.
Speaking of the covers, I think my favorite one, if you can have a favorite cover of these, is the one where it looks like Nimble Jack is eating Declan's brain, like with a spoon, like a bowl of cereal kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yes. It is a great cover. But this has to be my favorite cover, hands down.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, that is just, if you get the digital copy of this, you get the page without any text on, and it is just, it's a piece of art. I think I might have to print it off and put it on my wall.
Ooh.
Whenever Scott's... Go ahead, Shane.
I was just going to say, who needs to sleep anymore? You know, I just have that last thing I see at night, just that face.
It's like that cover Scott's talking about, like the eating the brain. This actually had things throughout. Like, if you, like, I was almost kind of picturing and hearing things. Like, if this was like a movie, I'm trying to think of the guy who directed Pan's Labyrinth. Who directed that movie?
I know. Yeah, I know
like,
the movie.
I feel like this book is something he could make into his own, and you'd be creeped out by it. You like the sounds of eating brains and stuff. Like, it would just be really creepy. Like, he deserves to make that. He should make this into a movie. That'd be his movie. But yeah, like, that's the kind of uneasiness this book gives you. You're kind of sensing other things that rather than just reading a book, you're sensing what it's like and how things feel and stuff. Like, even the scene where I think it was actually one where the guy was on fire and he was saying about the fire being the tongue. That's that one, Del Toro, Guillermo del Toro. Yeah. He should make this book. He should adapt this book into a movie.
Can you imagine Jack in real life? The creepiness of him crawling, the way he climbed through windows and up walls and behind doors, just looking over doors. And
I think Connie mentioned it, that the first time you see Jack, it's so creepy. Like, the way he goes through the prison bars and stuff, like, he is, it just, that also sets the tone of how creepy he is from the start.
Yeah,
like, it's just,
first time you see Nimble Jack is the creepiest, but the more it goes on, he's just a bit of a pest. bit of a pest. I like that.
Yeah,
like, go away, just swat him away.
That is true.
I think the designs,
he does a pest. Yeah.
The designs for him, like we were saying beforehand, before we went live, clearly the Joker, isn't it?
He's must be a big fan of the Joker as the guy, Mr. Paul Tobin, because it's the Joker. Like, and it's actually a really good interpretation of the Joker as well.
Oh, absolutely. Switch Declan out for Batman. This is a great Batman book.
It didn't feel like he was ripping off the Joker, though. It felt it was definitely like a homage or that sort of thing towards the Joker, and even the way he was speaking, Nimble Jack, even the way he was speaking was very Joker-esque, and that's the voice I had Mark Hamill's voice in my head whilst I was reading it.
Do you think the writer or the artist, do you think when he was asked to come up with a terrifying character, his brain instantly went to, well, the Joker for me is the most terrifying character I can think of.
Who knows if it was if Paul Tobin was kind of put him in that direction. I want a Joker-esque kind of character, or if it was a discussion between the two, like when they are designing characters before they finalize everything. Who knows?
It could have been completely accidental. You could have just done it and been like, "Oh crap, he looks like the Joker." Oh well, he looks great.
Oh my god! Yeah.
I love the way that we've now converted Scott, because he said before he doesn't think of voices whenever he's reading books, but he's just admitted it was Mark Hamill.
There's a few. I mean, Mark Hamill. When it comes to Joker, you think of Mark Hamill. There's
absolutely.
If I've read a character if I've read a character that I've seen on TV or film or whatever, I will give it a voice. But if I haven't, then no voice.
Liam agrees with you. He says he has Mark Hamill's voice in his head while he's reading as well. And TB Collect says Jack for him was a cross between Joker and Jack Sparrow. I can see that with the movements, like the drunken pirate movement sort of things. Yeah. He did move really creepily, didn't he? Like, he was always crawling, and like his body was always twisted in a weird way. Shall we move on to our panels or our pages?
Let's go ahead.
And where are they? There they are. We'll start with mine, because I think mine might be the earliest one. I think.
Okay.
So yours might come later on in the book. So I'll just go with mine first to show you what I picked. And I picked this one. It's where Reese goes into Declan's memories. He wants to show her what he's been through.
Yeah.
And it was the color shift for me that did this, because everything was dark, and like in the real world, everything's normal colors. It's, you know, it's not overly saturated. And then in the other place, everything is dark and dingy and rotten. But when she goes into his memories, it's this lovely pastel colors, you know, this beautiful orange and red and pink. And I just thought it was really beautiful. And I wanted to go for a less creepy page and a more beautiful page.
Well, it looks beautiful, but I think what's going on in the page and the connotations as to why it's orange and pink, you know, fire and all this, they're not so great. Like, if you just quick glance, ooh, that's pretty colors. If you really look at it, ooh, that's weird.
Yeah, but that's the great thing with this art throughout the entire book. If you really look at it, it's beautiful. But then when you look closer, it's beautiful because there's something really dark happening.
Yeah.
But I had to pick that one. As soon as I turned the page and I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's my pick. I was like, that I had that in mind, and then I carried on reading. And even though I got to the end, I was still like, no, that's still my pick.
To be fair, the rat in that image freaks me out. I don't really know
Which
why.
rat?
It's just the rat,
Oh,
the one on the table. Like, it's just
yeah, it's like pinned open. Yeah.
But
Phil, let's see
Yeah.
your page, and why did you pick it?
I just thought this was quite cool. Like, again, I'd said before, like, if this was like a movie, like the fact that he's fallen through the window. So this is like the Declan and Nimblejack having like a fight, but obviously Nimblejack's able to do whatever he can do here. So he throws him through the window multiple times. Like, he's showing him I can do this over and over again. So he falls down one window, through another one, and a sideways window, and up a window. It's just like, if this was a movie, that scene would be really cool.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I just thought it's just like, I don't know, it's just like a very dramatic kind of scene. Again, not too creepy. You know, there's some weird ass looking dogs at the other side of one window, but it's not creepy as such. But it's just a cool action kind of panel.
I love the colors and how the only color is the words or the sound effects.
Yeah,
What color?
and as blood as well on his back. Yeah. Oh.
And there's a slight blue to his jeans, so there is color. It's not like all black and white. The closer you look, the more color you see. But it's really,
it's grayscale, I suppose.
It was a really good action scene as well. Actually, the fight between him and Nimblejack, it was
Really
so
cool.
much fun. Scott, what did you pick and why?
Here's what I picked, and I picked it because, like, first of all, like, I was like, these dogs look awesome, didn't they? Like, just how massive they were and the detail on them, and just the corridor was really. It looked like, you know, in those dreams where corridors just keep going and going and going. It kind of looked like it had that kind of stretch on the first panel there. It just didn't stop. But then what kind of shocked me the most was the very bottom panel, was when, you know, you're looking from like a bird's eye view type of thing, and then you realize that all of the dogs have hands for bodies. And that was, you know, like you said, your page, Shane, yours was the one that really stuck with you. And this was the one that stuck with me because it was probably the most deceiving and shocking character design, you know, creature design, whatever. But it was just, that was in my head the whole time. I was like, dogs are hands. Like, what the heck? Like, these dogs are hands. Like, and it just freaked me out. But
it is freaky. Very freaky.
It is
very cool though.
I
love
think that's the great thing. But that's the great thing. The closer you look, the more things you see.
Yeah.
The deeper you go into the panels, because you could have just read that panel and moved on and not even noticed that those dogs were hands.
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile with this book, with the fact that we've read it now, but it's almost like you benefit yourself by just flicking through it again, just to look at the art. Like, don't read the story again, just to look at the pages, because you're right, you will pick up things that maybe you didn't notice, because they're trying to make obviously like the atmosphere of the book just be like unexplained creepiness. Like, why are the dogs hands? It doesn't make any sense really. So they're just
why wouldn't
they
they
creepy? Yeah, it's just, that's what I mean. It's just, if you flick through this after and have a look, which I'm going to do later on actually, before bed, to terrify myself before I go to sleep.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Tyler says he was completely shocked by the art in this book. He had never heard of the artist, but the entire book is great. He stopped multiple times just to look at the art. That's that's high praise.
Yeah.
If it
Connie
can,
tells us her favourite page as well above.
If it can keep you, if a book comic can keep you on a page longer than the text, that's a really good thing. Connie's favourite page is the one where they're walking down the glass corridor with all the dogs outside the windows, where Declan is saying, "This is the city of your, in your closet, the woods you don't want to enter." That was your page, Scott. Connie picked the same page as you.
Yeah.
So great minds.
Yeah,
It was a great page. Connie, did you notice that the dogs were hands?
Dogs are hands.
Dogs are hands. Glenn's favorite page is when Declan kills Jack. Great stuff. Which time? He killed him like 8 times in the book. He just kept coming back, didn't he? And we have the Newbin. Hi, Sean. Thanks for joining. Evening, peeps. Hope all is good. Yep, can't complain.
I almost think like the art was. Now, when I say this, I don't mean it's in a bad way. Like, it's not wasted on the story, but like, it's like you put too much effort into it. Like, the covers are great, but I feel like normally books would have great covers and lesser art throughout, but this didn't seem to kind of.
Yeah,
there wasn't that much. Well, there may be a few inconsistencies throughout, but it's like every page was great. To the point where like he's obviously spent so much time on it. Like, they're not working elsewhere, just in this one book, and that's it. It's just like they would have taken hours to do one panel, let alone a page, let alone a whole issue of a book.
Absolutely. Blue Sonic says he did what Phil did. He flicked through it again and again just to look at the art. It's because it's so good. And Connie didn't realize they had hands until just then. So there you go, Connie. You learned something on the nerd. Yeah, we taught you something. And Grey Man has to go one step further and say, hand dogs can pet themselves.
Can they like pet each other? Just go into some sort of like hand petting conga.
Oh no! What's it like when they're like mating? Is it just like?
Oh, but
I was thinking how do they poop, but you're thinking about how they mate. It just shows where our minds are at.
Did anyone read the foreword in this? Did you read the omnibus? Oh, see, I had the omnibus, and there was a great foreword from the writer of this, and he said when he got this cover sent to him, he tried to show it to his wife. His wife's an artist, so he thought she would be okay with it. Like, it creeped him out, but he really enjoyed it, and he wanted to show it to his wife. So he called her up from downstairs. She came upstairs, and she's like, "What?" And as she's walked in, he's pointed to his screen, and she's left the room again after looking at it. And he went, "No, come in." And she went, "No, it's all right." She stood in the doorway and wouldn't go back in until he took it off his screen.
I can
she
see
was
why.
so creeped out by the cover. I thought, how great.
That's one reason why Amy didn't read this book. Like, as soon as she saw our thumbnail and the cover and stuff for this, she was like, I don't want to read that. Like, I'm not saying it put her off, but it just didn't make her go, "Ooh, you know what? That cover makes me want to read it." But
there's no question, if you went into the comic book shop today and this came out, number 1 came out today with that cover, you did know what it was. You see that on the rack, everyone's going to want to buy it. It would sell out so quickly because it's such a big impact. Like, it's very creepy and unsettling. And like, I could just picture like someone putting their mouth or their hand through their mouth and their eye. It's awful.
Well, Jack does that to Declan in the 5th issue, doesn't he? They're having a fight, and he reaches his hand under his mouth and up through his eye, and it's grotesque, but just it's drawn so well you can't help but be in awe of it. So, what do we think of the writing then? We've gushed over the art. What did we think of the writing? Go on, Scott, kick us off.
It's not a bad thing, but it wasn't. It's a horror book. It's a thriller, a creepy thing. It's not the best story I've ever read. Yes, it was very cool. Like we said earlier, Nimblejack is like a Joker, Johnny Depp kind of crossover, and that bit was interesting. The bit that dragged me into the story more was when Declan started to become, more, actually moved around instead of just sitting around for 70 years. And, just the adventure that they had then, I say adventure very loosely, the adventure they had between Declan and Rhys, and just watching how it all affected Rhys as well. you know, you saw at the beginning of the story she's very sane, you know, well kept together, like she looks like a strong, you know, woman kind of thing. And this just completely wrecked her. This whole, you know, this whole journey. And even Declan says, you know, I thought you could have handled this, and clearly not. And he's really apologetic and things like that. But yeah, you know, it was a good story. You know, it was a well-rounded story. Um, it felt. I would have liked one more issue, to be honest. Sometimes we complain about a book having too many and we needed less, but I would have liked one more. That I would have read in the same sitting and never read it again, because it's kind of tricky. Yeah, that's what I think.
I think, like, if you really break it down, take away all the creepiness and stuff, this is really a true love story between Declan and Reese. It's a romance
and Jack.
book.
Actually,
And
it's a
Jack,
love triangle
yeah.
between Jack.
No, to be fair, I find the whole love thing quite odd. Like, I get he's lived with her in this kind of state where he doesn't speak or interact, but still, you know, goes to the loo and washes up and stuff, whatever, but doesn't like interact at all. And she's minded him, and he's like fallen in love with her. In like 2 days of like him talking to her, she feels the same. It's just,
Well,
it all seems very kind of.
Hasn't he been falling in love with her this whole time?
Yeah, but I mean, Reese in return kind of. You can see, I don't think she says it, but you can tell she's kind of fallen for him too. Like, surely, like a sane person, we like hear all this stuff and we're like, oh, I'm away. See you. Bye bye. Don't stay away from me. You know.
Yeah, on her side, it was a little bit rushed. The emotional connection. I mean, I know she was looking after him for 5 years. I get that, but she didn't know anything about him. Now he's woken up and he's like being a bit crazy, and he's told her that he was awake the entire time. He was literally just sat there being a dick, not responding to her for 5 years. And she still like she still wants to have any sort of interaction with him, because I would be like, right, so I've taken care of you for 5 years, you've ignored me for 5 years, now you want to talk to me, we're done, you can just go on your merry way now, I want nothing to do with you. But she was all like, oh, let's go out for lunch and let's walk hand in hand down the street. It was a little bit like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and even like whenever maybe this is part of Declan's character trait, like he seemed to want to tell everybody he interacted with about him and Reese. Like even the wee woman at the stall for the, what were they having, burritos or whatever it was.
I thought that was lovely though.
It was nice, but there was
nice touch,
even the other guy, the guy who was afraid of dogs, I forget his name, the other character. Like he just wants to tell everybody everything. It's like, hold on a second, what's your trust?
Well, he's not spoken for 70 years. I'd want to tell everyone everything too.
I found that aspect just very rushed. Like Scott was saying, like another issue, maybe 2 issues to kind of beef up the kind of relationship between them two might have benefited the story overall.
Yeah, also I think maybe an issue or half an issue explaining how Declan can do what he can do, because he has like he has powers as well. He can essentially remove madness from people, but it's never explained why or how.
I think we were kind of learning at the same rate as he was, to be honest.
But he was really good at it.
The fact that he couldn't do it that often because he was getting colder. That was the thing. Every time he'd done it, his temperature would drop. Isn't that right?
Yeah, but we didn't get any backstory to that, to him. Like even if it was a flashback to like the 60s where he did it for the first time and realized and then dropped an entire degree or something like that. It just jumped from 41 to now, and that was it. And
even with like him being in the asylum, like he was still grey looking. Like he was that colder character, was he not? But obviously, whatever Nimblejack said to him that night, that made him go cold.
Well, he was in the asylum for the criminally insane. So he did something. Some violent crime to get him in there. He had done. We don't know what he's done. Don't know if you'll find out in volume 2 or 3, but in this one we don't know what he did to get himself there.
And this is the thing. I feel like Reese deserves to know what he done. Like, why were you there? Because if we're gonna fall in love and be together, I need to know your backstory.
Yeah, it wasn't just an asylum. It was an asylum for the criminally insane. So he has done something. Connie says, She's taken care of him for 5 years and he's been fully capable the whole time. I'd be fuming. He deserves it when she slaps him. He did. He 100% did, because yeah, she had taken care of, he'd been sat in that chair in her apartment for 5 years. just ignoring her. Like, she was even reading to him like sexy novels, wasn't she? Like romance novels as well as like poetry and stuff. And so she had a glass of wine in her hand, reading this trashy romance novel out loud to him, getting all hot and flustered, and he's just sat there like
when you put it like that, you have to wonder, what did he do whenever she went to bed? Do you know what I mean? It's like, did he enjoy himself a little bit too much? It's just like, even the fact that she was turning down like a date with like a real life person, like a real life man, just to spend time with him. Like, it's, I suppose if you think about it, she is quite odd. Like, I won't go along the lines she's crazy. She's just odd in terms of she's taking him in, taking that responsibility. Yeah, it's an interesting case. Like, what's, like, you know, no one knows anything about him, how old he is, you know, what is his condition, blah blah blah. But like, it's still an odd thing to take him in. So maybe she's not quite as sane as maybe we think she is.
Yeah, maybe it was the kind of, you know, you get the cliche thing in films on TV where the women, you know, they say that they like a man of mystery and they like a man they can solve, a man they can fix and stuff like that. Was it because of that? You know, did she find him a little bit attractive and then went, you know what, I'll look after him in my own home for 5 years? Because she does say it when she's talking to the policewoman at the start, isn't it? She's saying, you know, he's a mystery. I can solve this. I've been researching for ages to figure out who he is and where he's from, but nothing. And she's like, I can fix this. I can solve this.
Yeah, it is a little bit odd. TB brings up a point. Didn't he say that he needed to ignore her to keep Jack away? I think that was something he did bring up, but it didn't matter because Jack could smell Declan on her, couldn't he? Because that was just a random encounter. She's out in the street outside the police station when Jack leaves the police station, and he catches the whiff of something familiar, and then he follows her home. So yeah, I think he did mention that, but still, it's a bit of a douchebag move to ignore a woman for 5 years and then just fall in love with her in 2 days.
Yeah, and just be like, hey, we need to talk. And this.
In terms of like the writing and stuff of characters, like we've obviously touched on how creepy Nimble Jack was, but even things like that, the fact that he fed on the crazy people. So what comes to Declan, he wanted him to like, what's the word?
Trying to age him, wasn't he?
Yeah, like age, like a fine wine type thing. So he says he planted this seed to make him colder or whatever, making this kind of insanity thing. And then I'll come back to you one day. And like, was it many years? Is it later? 40 years 70, later on?
Yeah.
70 years later. Yeah. It's just like, you know, it's so odd. Like, it's just, it is that even adds the creepiness that he's just willing to let him kind of.
I think what did it for me when it came to the whole aging thing was when he finally gets the chance to like eat him. He sets up the table like a date, and he like gets the candles and the, you know, a nice table setting, and he's like, oh, maybe we should talk first before we start eating and all this. And I'm like, it was kind of like, it was funny, but it was also like, geez, like terrifying at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought that was great though. That scene. That whole scene when he gets him, takes him there, and he's in like, yeah, I've got Reese, like, she's going to be for dessert, you know, she's just a little small dessert thing. Like, but you're the main course, I'm going to enjoy you and all this. And then they have the whole massive fight again, which is great. And then he gets so annoyed at Declan that he's like, fine, we'll start with dessert then. And he goes to get Reese. He was just such a good, Nimblejack for me is a really good character. For that sheer uncomfortableness I felt every time he was on the page, because I didn't know what he was going to do. Some characters you sort of can guess, but with him,
sometimes he just appeared out of nowhere and you don't expect him to be there. You're like, oh, okay, you know, like in a horror film where sometimes they shut the door and then behind the door is, you know, that's what happened when they were in the fridge, isn't it? When he was looking through the fridge, shut the door, isn't that right?
Yep.
He's right there, and I was like, oh, jeez, you know.
And you're never quite sure if the characters can see him as well, because there are times when they can't and times when they can. So you don't know, like, if he's in the background, is this a time they can see him or can they not? So you've got that uneasiness every time he shows up as well, which is great. Yeah. Greyman brings up a good point. He says, surely he was catatonic. No one No one sane of a sane mind can sit still for 5 years. He wasn't actually still though, because she did say he had like basic motor functions. She would like walk him to the bathroom, he would go to the toilet himself, and he would shower himself. So I'm assuming she would guide him to bed at night or to the table and stuff. So I think he was moving. He wasn't just sat still the entire 5 years. He'd have like bed sores and he'd be like attached to the sofa, wouldn't he?
Greyman makes a good point there too. Like who would let her? Like, what kind of authority would allow her to kind of take this person? And I know they kind of briefly mentioned the fact that they lost funding and stuff, whatever, kind of constantly monitor what this is. But like, I can't imagine any authority whatsoever was just say, you take him. He's your problem now.
Yeah, it's like we've run all the tests we can. People have now decided they don't want to experiment on him to find out what's wrong with him. So he'll just be a ward of the state. So you might as well have him and save the taxpayers some money. I mean, they don't really explain how high up she was, because maybe she was quite high up in her job and doing that is quite normal. But yeah, it wasn't explained. It was just like, 5 years ago, I got a man.
Yeah.
I just signed
got him delivered.
Yeah.
Got him delivered. Blue Sonic says, Nimble Jack was the character that kept me hooked on this story. Absolutely.
Like, I can agree with that and I can see that. But for me, it was Declan. It was his growth through the story. That's what I was enjoying reading. And then for me, it was just Nimble Jack he was just like a fun addition to the story, you know, to keep you on your toes and to kind of shake you up a bit whenever, you know, Declan's story started to just, you know, steady up a bit, and then they chuck Jack in, and then we just go off, wouldn't it?
What I found odd about Declan as well, like not odd as in like the insanity aspect, but like whenever Reese was kind of you know, going to like the other world, whatever, or else encountered Nimble Jack, it's like, we'll get you a cup of tea, we'll get you like a sandwich, we'll take you home, get you warm. Like that was slightly odd. Like, what's like, surely like if you have this creepy guy after you, like surely just soldier on, find a way to stop him. Like, we'll get you home, we'll get you warm, we'll get you looked after. That was just like, surely that's the last thing in your mind.
No, because Declan needed to warm himself up a little bit so he could use his ability on her to cure her mind, because she at that point she was getting a little bit hectic. Her brain was all over the place. She was getting a little bit crazy, fairly and understandably. You know, you've just seen this entire world where crazy people go. Like, that's what crazy people see and hear. When someone says they hear voices, they're coming from the other place. When someone says they can talk to dogs, it's because the dogs in the other place are talking to them. I thought that was really clever. I really like that idea and how they're all connected. So like, there is this one world where all the voices that live in people's heads are, and you can travel there.
We should note as well, like, what's quite clever, that the fact that Declan can obviously remove that kind of insanity, but he can also make it worse. He can heighten it, because there was two individuals in the dark world whenever they were fleeing Nimble Jack, and he made them more crazy. So Nimble Jack would be drawn to them. Like, he was able to sacrifice them two people just to kind of get away. And
he even saw the consequences in the real world when they bumped into him, didn't he? And he felt really bad.
Yeah, and they're getting the car and stuff. Yeah, and that's sort of thing too. That scene where they got in the taxi, and these arms just grabbed her up, and like I didn't realize that the dark world could then go through and get you as well. Like, as opposed to, do you know what I mean? Like, how did the dark world bring you in?
I thought Jack did that. I thought Jack had done it, but yeah, maybe when you first become crazy, like so quickly, maybe if you like, literally she went crazy in like 3 minutes, didn't she? I felt so bad for her.
I think with what Phil said then, it seemed kind of inconsistent with what you would expect from this world, because you know, it's something that only the crazy people can see and the sane people can't see. So how come these hands just materialized in the sane world and just took her away? Like, that seems inconsistent to
like, what's the cab driver thinking?
That's what I thought. Where is the cab driver?
You could explain it away, because she does grab Declan to pull him into the cab just as it happens. So maybe she grabs him and somehow accesses the world through him and has it take her away. But yeah, it wasn't very well explained, was it? But it was beautiful. It was amazing to watch these hands come from the top of it,
Yeah,
and then you see
yeah.
outside the cab, and you see her being lifted up, but obviously there's nothing above the cab. It was great.
Again, like maybe it's been a bit too picky because you don't want everything explained to you, I suppose, really.
Mm.
But at the same time, there are a few things that's like that. You think to yourself, I'd like it a little bit more. Just give me something a little bit more. Then
Do you think some of the things were done on purpose to make the reader feel a little bit crazy as well? Because like some of the lines that they're saying make no sense whatsoever, and
Yeah.
you can't make
well,
heads nor tails of it.
is that talking about like the reader's interpretation?
No, no interpretation. Just like there's just some, like some of the characters just say some random things and it makes no sense whatsoever, and it's never explained. Is that on purpose to make you feel like you're maybe going a little bit crazy as you're
Like,
reading this book?
Like, there's no rational explanation. There's
Yeah.
no reason why. Like, yeah, why are these people saying these things? Why are these things happening? And yeah, I mean, I guess I got that kind of sense of, again, it's just uncomfortable, isn't it? And
Yeah.
you're just reading it, you don't know what's happening, like, and then you probably do think a little bit to yourself, ooh, and not, ooh, am I going crazy? Because,
No,
at the end of the day, it's just a comic, but
am I meant to understand this? Am I meant to? Yeah.
You kind of double think.
Yeah, exactly. I think it has to be done on purpose, because even Connie, the writers, the writing was to make the reader feel a bit crazy. So yeah, I think like if multiple people have picked up on that, it has to be on purpose. You can't accidentally put so much randomness in a book about so much, about a being that eats crazy. Because what is Jack? We never find out what Jack is. Is he from the other place, or is he from a different place?
I think he's from other place, like a higher up. I think he's, like the boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like he's just from this higher place that look down on all of these people.
Yeah, that's how I took it. Like he's like a higher being that's somehow in control of this dark world. That like it's his. He's created it somehow, and also he is making people kind of crazy as well, then eating them up. But then I mentioned earlier on like an extra issue or two for this series. I think like a Nimblejack one-shot issue would have been quite good, just solely him, even his origin or whatever.
Didn't they say the way the Nimblejack appeared was the fact that they gave people 40 times over the dosage of this particular drug that they were trying to sort out. So I don't know if this is me making it up or if I did actually read it somewhere now. Like, wasn't something like played with the thought of like the fact that they gave so much of this drug opened up this dimensional thing that he climbed through? Did that happen?
Well, I think they say the doctors did say it would open the minds of the patients. So maybe with all of those people opening a door to the other place, Jack was then able to get through himself.
Yeah.
But him appearing in that first issue, like naked through that pool, just climbing out, was
what the hell?
So creepy.
Yeah.
I kind of, it's not a spoiler because if you've seen the covers, Jack does come back in volume 3. So if you want, I don't know if it's a prequel or a sequel, but I do know that he is on the cover of issue 1 of volume 3. So yes,
I'll have to check this out because I think there's a lot of Nimblejacks unexplained that I kind of want to know. I feel like I need to know.
Yeah, I feel I want to know as well. Not just I need to. I actually want to. Sometimes you read a book and you're like, I need to read more about this just for my own, peace of mind. But for this, I want to read more. I want to read the second volume again, and then I'm going to go straight onto the third volume. I can't wait.
So you read the second volume before this? Is that like its own kind of story then, like a separate arc?
Yeah.
Or is this right? Okay. So does it reference the first arc at all, or is this kind of play on as?
Now that I've read this, I do know that it references it. But like when they talk about things, because it's just it's called Toss the Bones.
Okay.
And it's a 4 or 5 part story, 5 issue story. Because it was a compact story, I grabbed it because I love the cover, which is like a scarecrow, but he's made up of fingers and hands on his face. And I just thought that, again, you see a cover like that on a shelf, you're going to pick it up. Yeah. And it was great. And they did mention Nimblejack in it, but I just assumed that was either coming later or it wasn't until I finished it that I realized there were 2 other volumes. So
Either side.
yeah, either side. So I read the middle part. But yeah, would you read on, Scott?
I think so, yes. Yeah, just because of the pure curiosity behind the whole thing. You know, it's not because I want to see what happens with Declan. I just want to know what else Paul Tobin can think of. You know, what else can he think up, and will he, you know, what can he add to both of these worlds? You know, and yeah, that is what is intriguing me more than, you know, yeah, character development, is what can Paul Tobin add to the world.
I think he can add a lot. He's really imaginative with every character, like the Upside Down, or it's not the Upside Down.
Yeah.
That's how I was thinking. Like, I was comparing it to Stranger Things Upside Down world slightly. Yeah.
The other like the monsters in there with like 1 eye or 10 eyes, you know,
Yeah.
4 arms. So they were all individually drawn as well. Like they weren't just like copy and paste. They were all individual characters. You could just look at them all, and they were all different, and they all unique. It was fantastic. Connie says she will read on. It's left her with enough questions to be interested in continuing, which is not. That's good. It is a complete story from start to finish. So it ends, Phil. On a cliffhanger. So it ends, which is great, but it also is open for the next one. So you get to read on if you want, and if you want to stop here, you can stop here, and you're not lacking anything. You know, you've had the story. Blue Sonic also going to continue on, which is awesome. See,
I'm going to try and hunt down. I know it's hard to get the collected edition off this, so I'm going to try and hunt down on eBay or the single issues for this, because I do want to read it.
Glenn says the omnibus is on Comixology for £6 right now, Phil.
It's a good deal.
There you go. £6. That's
It's
all
like
3
400
volumes.
pages, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, it's great.
I think if you do want the individual issues, they are quite pricey for the first issues. I did see like an issue 4 or 5 for like £3 or £4, but the 1s and 2s go for
To
quite
be fair,
a bit.
I was in my shop today and they had two of the, I think it was issue 2 and 3 for £2. And I didn't buy them because I thought I don't want to buy these 2, then not get the other 3.
Go
and
back.
it had number 1 off the second volume as well, so maybe I'll have to try and get that now.
Oh, go back. Liam
Grab
says
it.
he'll read on, but he's only going to read on the first volume because he hasn't finished this yet. So that's
No, he
cheating.
didn't finish it. Yeah.
He's not finished.
He wants to read. He wants to read on from where he stopped.
He wants to continue this volume. Yeah. Go back and get those issues, Phil.
100%.
You'll get them all eventually. Just slowly build the collection.
I think I might. I think I'll tomorrow morning before
£2
everyone else.
Challenge, right? By next Halloween, by next October, you need them all, right?
You'll have all of them.
I couldn't display them because, like I say, my kids would come in this room, so I couldn't have them out because they'd be like, "Oof, that's a bit too much for them," you know.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is not for kids. No. They can't even look at the covers of these.
That's bad.
Before we get on to our scores, TB Collects is wondering why they don't have, I'm assuming that means oversized hardcover?
Yeah.
Or an omnibus hardcover?
Oversized hardcover.
Oversized hardcover. There you go. Because the art is fantastic. Yeah. They did have one omnibus out, like a few years back, and they had it on Amazon, I think, about 2 months ago, and it was like £130 or £140 for the omnibus. Yeah, but it's sold. Someone bought it. It's gone. It's not there anymore.
Jeez, must have been
yeah. And Glenn says, as his first horror comic, he really enjoyed it, and he'll read the rest. So I'm chuffed because I picked this book. So before we get to the scores, I will say this is the first book of volume 2, which means I'm going to take the lead on the leaderboard for a whole week.
You're also going to be bottom off the leaderboard for a week.
Yeah.
And then next week, if whatever the book, if something that's called the children takes number 1 spot, you will definitely be bottom for a week. So there you go.
Well, we'll see. But I'm happy to have top spot for 1 week, even though there's no competition at all. I'm completely happy with that.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
So we're going to score it now. So if you've read along in the chat, please drop your score and we'll take an average of that and add it to our score. and it will add to the overall score for this book. So, Phil, take it away. Final thoughts and scores, please.
Okay, so it's one of those books where I do think the art is better than the story. Obviously, yes, the story does add to the kind of overall creepiness. The characters and stuff is building them to be like Nimblejack to be uber creepy. And it was so cool, like the idea of it, like the fact that he can take away people's insanity or increase it, and then it was cool. But I did find the love stuff really kind of like, well, I understand you loving her, or Declan loving Reese, but like her reciprocating it, and then it's slightly odd behavior in both their part. And it did seem rushed. I feel like maybe they could have had one or two more issues to kind of expand upon that slightly. There's no question, like this touches on some dark stuff, and I was disturbed the first two issues, and the point where I wasn't certain if I liked this book. It looked fantastic, but the things that were occurred in the book, I was like, ugh. But as Scott mentioned, like the further you get into, you get past that point, and it does become a good story in its own right. But I still think that I'm still irked by those early issues slightly. I'm going to go 7.5. I think that's where I'm at. I think it's a very good story and a good book to read, and I will read on. There were a few things where I was let down slightly because about the book, like, don't over-explain things, but just give us a little bit more. So 7.5 is where I'm at.
Totally fair, and I'm really happy. I'm happy that, I'm totally happy with that. Thank you very much. Because really, you're scoring me. Just so you know.
Oh, 10 out of 10. If I'm scoring these 10 out of 10. Scott tonight.
Scott, final thoughts and scores.
So yeah, this was a really fun book. In a weird sense. Like Phil said, the first two issues are creepy as hell. And if I did stop to have a break between reading issue 2 and 3, I think I would have slightly daunted reading the rest. So I'm really happy I read it in one go. It is a good book to read in one go. But yeah, the art totally won me over more than the story. It was a stunning book. Everything, the characters, the creatures, the worlds. I think I saw a comment from Tyler earlier on saying they got so much detail in, you could even see the shadows from leaves falling down from trees. Like, that's how much detail they put, and that was absolutely amazing. But yeah, it was just a very overall creepy story. And I don't think we've said it enough. It's a creepy story. But I really enjoyed the relationship between Declan and Reese. That was my favorite part. And then just Nimblejack just jumping in now and again. And the whole development and learning about their powers is really good as well. Good fun read. I'm glad it kind of ended. Like, you can read it on its own. I do want to read more, but I don't feel pressured or have this, nagging want to read more. So overall, I think it was a really good start to horror month. I'm going to give it a 7.
Lovely. Awesome. So before I give my scores, have you got the scores from the chat? Because we've got some high scores from the chat.
I know. So yes, quite a few.
Greyman gives it a 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
Connie gives it a solid 7. Glenn gives it an 8. Beth, who's asleep, hopefully she wakes up soon. Otherwise, she won't sleep tonight.
Yeah.
A 9 out of 10 from Beth. I'm so happy with that. TB collects. He completely shocked by the book. Wasn't expecting to be so into it. Fantastic art, crazy psychological story, and he gave it an 8 out of 10. See, so chuffed with these scores. Super chuffed.
I think if Glenn changes to the 8.5, is that?
Oh, he really liked it.
He's upgraded.
Oh, he's changed it to an 8.5. Okay, even better.
Let me just change that.
For me, surprisingly, because I picked it, I'd read the second volume, so I had no idea what this was, but I really, really like this. There's so much I liked about it. I love the art, I love the story, I love the characters, I love the character designs, I love the page layouts and the craziness of that as it was going through the other place compared to the real world. Just the difference was so good, but like you could still tell it was the city they were in. The buildings were all the same, they were just slightly different. Like, so clever. And what I love the most, which I have moaned and moaned and moaned about many, many times on the Nerd Herd, is that this is a complete story. You can pick this trade up and you can read this trade and you can put it down and you are done. It's 5 tight compressed issues, you know, a start, a middle and an end. And I really love that in my books. If I'm going to pick up a trade, I want it to be a complete story, and this is. And it's creepy, and it just makes you uncomfortable as you're reading it. And like you said, Scott, you're not going to get jump scares from a horror book. You're not going to turn the page, you know, it doesn't happen. It's a book. But you are going to turn the page and go, oh, what is that? Like that with the hands in the face when Jack is attacking him, and it's fantastic. So I really, really love this. And obviously it's not perfect. I understand all the things like the love stuff and the, you know, the lack of backstory for some things, and I completely get that. I've not got blinkers on for this book, but I did really enjoy it, and I will read it again because it's one of those books you can pick up with a coffee and you can read it in under an hour. You haven't got to set aside a big chunk of time for it, and I really, really like that aspect as well. So for me, it's an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
I called it. I wrote it down before you even said.
Did you?
Yeah.
You know me too well.
Called it, isn't it? So, scores on the doors. The audience, so we got a 7.5, a 7, an 8.5, an 8, a 9, and 8, which gave us an average score of 8 out of 10 for the audience. And for us boys, Phil, you gave it a 7.5, I gave it a 7, and Shane gave it an 8, which brings us to an average of 7.5.
Nice.
Awesome.
Can we see where it puts us on the leaderboard?
Yeah.
I wonder. Does it beat Maximum Carnage?
So this is our new top 10 leaderboard, everyone. Once we fill this, we will then go into another page of a further leaderboard, but this is our top 10 page, and at the moment, it's number 1.
Top spot. I got the top spot.
All right, calm down, Shane. Don't be getting too carried away.
So this book is as good as Canto then, because it's like the first.
For now, we'll wait for 52 weeks, and then we'll see.
For 1 whole week, this is a top spot, and I'm
on par with Canto.
Yeah. So that was Colder from Dark Horse 2012. We all seem to enjoy it, which I'm really happy about.
Yeah.
It's not a bad pick for the first one. Volume 2, Issue 1 of the Nerd Herd. I've picked a decent book. I'm well happy. So yes, before we go round and see if anyone's doing anything. We'll start with.
What are we doing next week?
Oh, next week, yeah. We're reading a book next week. It's your book next week, Scott. What are we reading? It's your pick. What are we reading?
We are reading Something is Killing the Children, Volume 1. Probably one of the first books that got me into my whole YouTube thing and into comics in general. So I'm really looking forward to bringing this to the herd.
I have never read it, and I don't know anything about it apart from there's a female character with like a mask with a mouth on it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Scott, was this one of your books you were almost hesitant to pick because you're worried about the Nerd Herd and what we really think of it because you love it that much?
The only book I am terrified of adding to the Nerd Herd is 7 Secrets.
Now the chat know this when it comes to Fear's pick. They're all going to pick it. You know this. Thanks for saying it, because I was going to say it, but thanks for saying it, yeah.
I know.
Looking forward to next week.
So next week, Something is Killing the Children. I won't be here next week. I am doing a Fear Festival. It's called Shocktoberfest down in Surrey. It's a street fair with all like actors and stuff in the streets, and then they have 10 rooms of horror that you can visit, clowns and surgeons and witches and stuff. So I will be doing that. So I won't even be able to watch live, unfortunately, guys, but I will do videos of my thoughts on the books for you to play.
They have that right, Liv. It's just not a Halloween thing. It's just called Belfast. Sorry, I was terrible at that joke.
It's probably going to be scarier than Shocktoberfest in all fairness. So let's go around and see if anyone's doing anything, or shockingly, if anyone has already done something. Phil,
Listen, I couldn't have another episode of the Nerd Herd without by saying I'll make a video for next week. So it's been like 3 or 4 weeks. I promised it, so I had to put something out. So it came out today. My review of the TMNT IDW Collection Volume 1. It's on my channel, and I'm also already started to read Volume 2. So
What?
I'm not going to promise the video anytime soon, but it will be coming at some point. Not next week, maybe a couple of weeks.
5-6 weeks. Yeah. Start promising it next week, and then it'll be ready in 5 weeks' time.
Yeah, that's all I'll do. I'll hype it up now. That's all the hype. I'm getting people excited for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, head over to Phil's Nerdyverse to check that out. Because I mean, you don't see him that often, so go watch it. Scott, what have you got coming up, or what have you got up?
So tomorrow, myself and Alistair from Stormcore Collectibles, we are doing our mystery box battle. So we both received 10 books from Job Lot Comics, and we are going to be going head to head tomorrow. You can see it on my channel and on his channel at the same time, and you can join in the chat. It'll be really fun, and you can kind of judge for yourselves who's got the better covers, whilst we go against each other to see who's got the highest value of books that we had.
Awesome. I
So
got
that is
a bit
at,
excited today. I thought it was today.
yeah. It's at 8 o'clock tomorrow PM.
Tomorrow, not today. I got all ready to watch it today. I got everything prepared, got the big telly, got my laptop, my Mac, my iPad for the comments, and I was all ready. And then you were like, no, it's tomorrow. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Whoops. Also, we did a video on Monday.
Yes, we did.
We met up in person, and we did a little collab, didn't we? Live action. We got some mystery bags for each other. Had a look through those. That was fun.
I didn't watch it. I just thumbs down the video, and that was it.
We called it Popcorn and Pints because we had pints and there was popcorn on the table. Really salty popcorn on the table.
Oh, it was gross.
It makes you buy more pints. That's smart. Hold on.
But this was inedible. This was inedible. It was far too salty. But I've also got my quiz on Dawn of Comics. It's the viewer competition is still live, so you can head over, watch Dawn of Comics Quiz Night 12, enter the viewer competition and win a prize. So yeah, that's me. But yeah, once again, next week we are reading Scott's pick, Something is Killing the Children, Volume 1, 2019, from Image.
Boom.
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 Whoops. It's like,
Image.
from Boom Studios. Yeah, of course it is. I know it is. I don't know. I'm just having a little brain freeze.
It's okay.
Don't worry about it. We've been recording over an hour. I don't go over an hour normally. That's the problem. So yes, until next week, everyone. Thank you for joining. There's only one thing left to do, and that is to get your waves out and say thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Bye.
Anytime now.
Bye, everyone.
Love you.